There's everybody.
There's everybody. Well, cool. Well, thanks everyone for being here this morning, and thanks for letting us get into your heads. Really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you and share a few things. So today we're going to talk about mindsets, overcoming objections, multiple offer strategies, some of our best practices, some of the things that we've hopefully learned over the years. But first, I'd like to introduce ourselves. So Nathan, you want to start it out?
Yes, I'm Nathan Chaika. I'm here in the Twin Cities area. I have been licensed now for a little over 22 years. I got into the industry from a little bit different path. My brother-in-law worked for a big national builder and told me I should go be a sales guy. I had a good construction background. I had worked on framing crews and concrete crews and survey crews and things through college. So I started shortly after college selling for big builders and have been doing both resale and specializing in new construction for about the last 15 years. So
cool. I'm Kevin Sharkey. I've been licensed for a little over 35 years, I think. Real estate is pretty much all I know, so which makes me unemployable in the real world. I've owned a couple of brokerages prior to joining AGENT21. Sold a few houses along the way, but I do have to say that what we're doing here today is one of my favorite activities, getting agents together and able to share their ideas. So I know everyone's got their mics muted, but use the chat room. This works best if we can all kind of collaborate and share some of the ideas together. So with that, should we start it off?
Start it off. We'll kick it off.
Okay, Nathan's going to start off talking about the mindset of buyers and sellers and making us smart.
Yeah, and the main topic here is in negotiations. So you'll see that theme kind of run through most of what we're talking about here. I think the main thing is there is no secret sauce to negotiating. There's no manual on the best way to do it on each deal. They all have a life of their own. So really what we're here to talk about is best practices in the mindset of buyers and sellers, and to me, more importantly, our mindset, how we go through these negotiations, just to get the best outcome. And to me, the best outcome always needs to be a positive experience for your buyers or sellers, for your clients. I think to start out, I like to remind myself and other people that our role is to advise our clients, counsel them, provide data, research, referrals, give them the tools they need to have a positive experience through the negotiation parts of a transaction. Our position is not to spend their money. It is definitely not to make decisions. It's to support their decisions and to give them everything they need to make good decisions on their own behalf. So little things, but when speaking with other agents, it's never we've done this or we feel this. Be professional, take the stance of my clients feel this or my sellers have instructed on that. If you're saying, if you're negotiating on a price and you're kind of back and forth and you say, we've already come down this far. Well, you haven't. It's not your money. You're representing somebody who feels that they have come down far enough. So I think that it's a little thing, but it's important to remember, because really we need to try to get the best outcome, and having a good relationship with the other agent you're working with is going to be important. And this allows you to take a step back away from the emotions and away from that decision making, because we're not the decision makers. We are there to facilitate a good experience. Whenever I have buyers, one thing I'd like to tell them when they say, how much should I offer on this house? And you can, again, you give them comps, you make them feel good about a certain price point for them. But one thing I always like to tell them, and it kind of gets them to smile a little bit, is I say, do you want to be laying awake at night, not being able to sleep, staring at the ceiling in this house, wondering if you overpaid for it? Or do you want to be laying awake, not being able to sleep some night, staring at the ceiling in a different house, wondering if you should have paid more for this one? I can't help you with that. And it really just kind of distinguishes that pain point or what their comfort points are for pricing and tying it to the emotions they're going to feel living in that home. That needs to be theirs. So we can educate them on neighborhood pricing. We can educate them on a lot of different things. We can't take that ownership position. And to get there, you really need to do your due diligence in understanding what their motivations are, what their pain points are. Whenever we're negotiating, if I have buyers, I always encourage them to have their walk away number established in their head. Where are they comfortable buying this house, and where are they totally comfortable walking away from it? And again, it's not my money. I have a house. I don't need another one. So we can.
It's not like boats.
It's not like boats. No, there's always room for boats. So I think that's important. You have to ask the right questions. You have to ask the right open-ended questions. Never assume you know the price point of what your buyers might do for a house. But it's a conversation they need to have with themselves so that in potentially short notice situations, they need to be able to make a decision that they're comfortable with. So another thing just in mindsets, I think it's most successful when negotiating if you take the mindset that this isn't a win or lose situation for you or for your clients. Negotiations are an opportunity to find a solution that works for both parties. It's not a contest. It's an opportunity to find middle ground. And I've always thought the best way to do that is just talk to the other agent. If you're representing buyers, if I submit an offer, it never goes through before I make a phone call and try to get a hold of that agent. Do what I call going fishing, just fish for information, ask a couple of open-ended questions and shut my big stupid mouth so I can try to get as much information from the sellers that agent will give me or can give me. Salespeople are uncomfortable with silence. And so when you ask a certain question and they answer it a little bit, if you just stay quiet, a lot of times they'll just start feeding you information on what that seller's specific situation is. And then you can take that information and help an offer or help substantiate your offer with the terms like possession dates or repairs that maybe need to be made on the property, or how much they're willing to take, or even how much they hate the process of showing and selling their house. Sometimes if you get buyers or sellers that are really sick of packing up kids and pets and all that stuff, they're going to be ready to sell. So you can try to sniff out some of that motivation and just try to find what that equal ground is going to be so that you can craft an offer for your buyers that might be successful with those sellers. That's kind of what I had on mindset. And just with that whole opportunity to find middle ground, I had a transaction it was last fall. I had buyers looking for a property to build a home on. So we found one in Minnetonka that had an old house that was going to be torn down on it. We knew based on its price point and location, it was going to be multiple offers. And we knew also that we were going to probably be going up against developers and builders that were going to pick it up for spec builds. So I called the agent like I always do, and it happened to be an agent that I had done a couple of deals with. He also had a background in new construction. And so we had overlapped at some companies and things like that. And what I told him was, I said, we're putting our opening offer in. Know that it's our opening offer. And my buyers would like nothing more than to find out what it takes to get this house. Just one last look at what the purchase package needs to look at. And I think there were 4 or 5 offers on that property. And what the agent said to me was, he said, Nathan, we play well in the sandbox together. We've had a couple of good deals together. I think I'll let you know that. Let me find out from the seller. So we submitted our offer. He came back and he said, the seller has given him permission to let me know what it would take to do it, which was basically removing some of our due diligence terms. We had a time frame set up to work with the city, soil sampling if buyers chose to, things like that. And the other best offers had none. They were going to take it as is. So he let me know that they liked our price, just need to clean up our terms a little bit. And I said, does that mean we have to get rid of our due diligence? And he said, that would be a term that would definitely get you guys the house. So again, two agents finding middle ground with the permission of both of our clients, to really see if there was somewhere where we could have a successful transaction together. So, any questions? Do you have anything to add?
No, it's interesting. Nathan and I made our notes separately for each other, and you've taken all my good stuff already. So
Yes.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem.
But one thing is with the mindset, especially for agents, and we're going to have a lot of these recurring themes that we'll state several times probably through the course of this. But it's the agent mindset, because so often I've seen agents take all this personal, and it's like you said, Nathan knows it's my money and we've come down already. I try to tell my agents, become vapor. Just let all these things just go through you. You're the agent for your client, and don't get emotionally involved in it. Just do what they say within the legal rules, but don't get emotionally attached to it, because it's you want to play nice, like Nathan said, play nice in the sandbox with all the agents and not get into adversarial relationships. You want to make it as easy as possible and to get outcome that works for everyone. So,
well, and I think most times we're working with other agents that are operating in from a similar position, because we all like to sell stuff. We all like the happy dance after closing.
Yep.
So most of the time, I think when you're asking about a specific situation of a buyer or seller to help with a counter or to help with an initial offer, most of the time you're going to get you're going to get something that's going to help you, because within obviously the rules of disclosure, because that other agent also wants to sell a property. They want to do it for their clients' best interests. That's why we get hired. And you're probably not going to get all of the motivating terms from them, or sometimes you do. Sometimes you find agents that need to turn so much product in a year because of the size of their teams or the size of their own business. And sometimes you'll find agents that are almost working on your behalf as well, because they need to sell property so many properties. So I like what you said, be vapor. Just go in it with a mindset of cooperation, and usually that's the best results.
Yeah, agreed. So I think that, so anything else on mindset?
No,
Okay.
I'm good.
We're also going to talk about handling multiple offers and some of the contingencies around multiples. And I know, Nathan, you do a great job with that. Don't you have a spreadsheet? Or how do you handle multiples?
Yeah, when I'm a listing agent and when I have multiple offers, I use a spreadsheet. I obviously send every offer to the sellers so that they have it, but just to make it as easy as possible, I put it into a spreadsheet. It does not include buyers' names. We strongly discourage love letters. I actually, if I have it in my agent notes, back when multiples were happening like crazy, I have sent offers back to agents after in my agent notes, I'd say no love letters and say resubmit without the personalized letter from the buyers. And then that spreadsheet is, it's price, closing date, earnest money, financing type, miscellaneous things, are there warranties, and it gets you to the bottom line. And it's a really good way for those sellers to take all this stuff that they're not familiar with and just say, oh, you can just start crossing off the ones you don't want. And then I don't love waiting for a highest and best time frame. I usually coach my sellers to say, let's look at offers as they come in. And if we need to establish a highest and best time frame, maybe we will. But maybe somebody will knock your socks off early. And then why would you make them wait for a whole weekend?
So do you put that into agent remarks of how you're going to handle offers coming in?
I don't put that into agent remarks. When agents that are thinking about offers or submitting offers call and ask, I let them know that that we may call it later, but as of right now, we're reviewing them as they come in. It allows you also to negotiate them as they come in. And this obviously doesn't work nearly as well in the 2-3 years ago when it was, 60 showings and 15 offers.
Oh, the good old days.
Yeah. But in a situation where you have just a couple of offers at a time, 4, 5, 6 even, you can take, what I like is that you can take those top 2 or 3 and start negotiating all of them. It's not that you can only take the best one and negotiate with just that one person or take it as it is. Get the top. I've always liked getting the top 2 or 3 involved and chase those ones up to the best terms for your seller.
So when you're working with a buyer, excuse me, what do you do? How do you package your offer so that yours is favorable?
Well, first of all, it depends on how the fishing trip went. And if we find, maybe a closing date that's important for the sellers or possession after closing or whatever, maybe the information we got from them. Other things is if I have a buyers and we're in multiples, definitely take the time to get your offer clean, write it clean. Don't leave anything out there in an error that might cost your buyers a house because you were sloppy with your paperwork or you missed certain documents that you were supposed to put through. Make it easy for that seller to take that deal within what you have. Obviously, you can't write that you're a 20% down buyer and then come in with financing at closing with 3% down. I mean, that's unethical. But take the terms that you have. Some of the things you can always do, which I usually encourage, is I have my lender call or email the agent at the very least, because the lender I use does a really good job with getting like a platinum pre-approval where they've actually reviewed income documents, they've reviewed tax returns, reviewed pulled credit, all that stuff. And I want that listing agent to know that these buyers are pretty far down the road with financing. Brag a little bit. I like to tell the other agent that, I'm a full-time agent. I've done this for a lot of years. I communicate effectively. I communicate promptly. Text, phone calls are my favorite. I still like to jabber on the phone when I can. And so don't just put something through blind with agent XYZ. Brag a little bit. Let them know that you're here and you've been here and you're good at this and you're going to be good to work with through the process. If you've coached your buyers on inspection items, like sometimes we were seeing waived inspections for so long, which I hated. Yeah. But if your buyers are in line with it and they say, we're going to do an inspection to see if we're either going to walk away or we're only going to ask for health or safety items only, or pre-negotiate. Even sometimes I had buyers one time that said, put in there that we will not request any repairs to exceed $2,500 or whatever it was. These are little things that you can do to make your buyers make them look up front that they're going to be cooperative and they're going to be realistic on requests, that they're just going to help that seller with a good transaction. That's most of what I try to do in a situation like that.
So what's your take on escalation clauses?
My take on escalation clauses from a listing agent, I actually liked them and I liked not using them. I liked it because you were basically given what that buyer's walk away point was. You know, if it was a house you had for sale for 350 and they said they would pay $2,000 over the highest offer up to 380, well, go in at 380. Right. So then when I was coaching sellers, I was like, obviously they'll pay up to 280. So I had some in the past where I said, we're not signing your escalation clause. That's off the table. Our counter is 380. Because I mean, that with an escalation clause, you're giving away what your buyer's walk away point is. So as a seller's agent, why not just take it and run? From a buyer's agent perspective, again, I don't love giving up that leverage. But if that's what it takes to buy a house, and if my buyers will be laying awake in the right bedroom with that number, if they feel good about that number, let's go, let's do it, right? I like escalation clauses as a tool way more than like waiving inspections or appraisal gaps. I think are risky. I don't love those appraisal gap coverage. But again, if you as an agent did your job to explain you are potentially buying this house for more than a bank thinks that it's worth, and that's maybe not a good financial position to be in. And if they say, I don't care, I need that house, go get them that house. That's your job. Again, that mindset of supporting their decisions, educating them, providing them with the research that they need.
Yeah, for me, I like, if I'm working with a buyer, I like my escalation clauses because it gives that little bit of advantage. For sellers, I don't like it. In fact, many times Linda is my wife, my partner. We'll tell our sellers not to accept escalation clauses. We tell other agents that up front because we want to get them to come to the highest price as quick as possible. You know, if the offer comes in at 2,000 over, you know, whatever your next highest price is, I want to get them up to, you know, in a bidding war.
Yeah.
And you know, so I like it for buyers. I don't like it for sellers.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, the only reason I like it for sellers is because the buyers are giving you what their numbers are.
Right.
You know,
right.
They're telling you what they'll buy the house for. Lori had a good comment here in the chat, recommending telling agents that when you're talking with another agent regarding an offer, pretend your client is sitting right next to you. That way you really think about what you're saying and not say something detrimental against your client. I think that's a great point.
Good. Yeah, that's really good.
If you wouldn't say it in front of your client, you should absolutely not say it to another agent. That's really good. And that's representing your client's best interests to a T. That's a good point.
And Nathan and Kevin, I think Kelly has a question too. She's got her hand raised. I can unmute her if you guys want to take one.
Yeah,
that'd be great.
Absolutely.
How you doing, Kelly?
Certainly.
I love it. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Perfect. So rewind back to when you were talking about representing the seller and you're getting multiple offers in. Pretend I'm one of your 3 offers, and like, what are you telling me as you're negotiating all 3 offers without a best and final, I guess, is where I'm trying to get you to go.
Well, so if we have 3 offers and you're one of them, I guess it would depend on those other offers. And it really depends on how my seller would want to work through a negotiation. But maybe your client is cash buyer, let's say. So now we know that there's conveniences to that offer, but it's low on the money. And there's another offer that's a 20% down. It's conventional, really good, strong, clean other terms, but they're higher on the money. Back in, again, with appraisals were becoming issues, right? So now with that cash offer, that's really a leg up. So what we might be saying to the other one is, get the cash offer up higher. And if we're calling the other super clean offer at 20% down, maybe we're trying to get them to pre-pay some of the seller's closing costs even, or assume the taxes for the year, or just something that would sweeten that deal even further. And then at the end, and don't get me wrong, sometimes if you do it this way, you can end up with 3 deals that are really hard to choose from. And we've had to make those calls, right? We've all had to make those calls to agents that submitted rock star offers and say, sorry, this one's not going to work. And you can't disclose the terms, or you shouldn't, obviously,
Right.
unless your sellers tell you to. But, and to me, so when I worked for national builders for, I don't know what it was, 8 or 10 years, we got a lot of training in negotiating, just corporate type training. And one of the keys, or one of the strategies, they call them, was throwing trash on the lawn, which was bringing up and making a big deal out of things that are not a big deal.
Yep.
And one of them in that case that, so let's say you get 6 offers on a property. Usually you have 2 or 3 of them that are good, and 2 or 3 of them that are just garbage, or maybe not garbage offers, but just are not going to be able to compete with your other ones. Never let on with those 2 or 3 that you're trying to chase up even higher, that there's only 2 or 3 that you're trying to chase up even higher. You always say, well, we've got 6 offers on this property, so we really need to find out how much your buyers want to have it, or however you're crafting your talk there. But 6 sounds like more than 3. And so it's going to make people more aggressive. And if you have 2 offers and one's great and one's not going to be competitive,
right,
you're still in multiple offers. And that other offering party doesn't need to know that they already have this locked up because they wrote a great offer and your other one's bad. You're still just going to say, this other party is, working on their offer to try to come up, and is this your last and final? So I guess I don't dislike highest and best as a strategy to put an end to all of it. I dislike establishing a highest and best right away. If you are on the market on a Friday, if your first offer comes in at 2:00 on Friday, and you've already decided your highest and best is Monday at noon. I mean, if that's how your sellers want to do it, that's fine. But to me, if you get one early on that is just everything you might want or need in an offer, why would we wait till Monday?
Yeah, agreed.
And I also like that leverage position in negotiating to say, you're an early offer in. If you guys can sweeten this deal a little bit, we'll go ahead and cancel the open house on Sunday. We'll just, and getting an early offering buyer motivated early can come really help your sellers out as well, I think, too. And again, it's like we said in the mindset, it's understanding your sellers. If it's a vacant house and they show it 100 times, I don't care. Let's wait until Monday. Then that's the way you're going to do it. If they have to pack up kids and dogs and clean the house, and it's really a chore for them to have showings, then we need to then tailor our negotiation tactics to try to get that best deal early, because it's not always just money. It's kind of like I mentioned in the beginning, it's about their experience. So did that answer your question, or did I just talk a lot and make it go away?
Nope, you helped me a lot on 2 specific points, so thank you. And then just real quick, if you do a negotiation class, I would love that. I would be signed up in a heartbeat.
You're on a roll.
Good.
I just talk a lot. No problem. And if anybody else has questions, feel free to either put them in the chat or raise your hand. That's more fun anyway. So one of the other ones that I have some notes on, so I think we should talk about, is contingent offers, because again, I think the market where we put a house on the market and we get all these offers right away, we're just not there right now. We are seeing more and more contingent offers get accepted.
Getting accepted,
or offered.
exactly.
And I've had a couple this year that have worked out really well. And again, found out that they'd work out the last one, for example, my buyer didn't need to be contingent. She had the wherewithal to purchase this new house, but it was better for her financing to stay out of a jumbo loan to go to try to be contingent. And I asked the questions up front of that agent, and she did let me know that they had an offer that fell apart right away. And she let me know that that house was going to be easy to buy. We had sellers that were sick of packing up kids. They were blending of families together. They had a wedding coming up. They were thoroughly tired of showing the house. So in finding that out, we did make our offer contingent, but we had everything ready to go. And I think that's very important in this market, and it gives you such a strong negotiating position. Is I had told that agent, our photos are done. I've got all my stuff ready to be inputted into the MLS, and we've done our market analysis. Here's the address. Here's what we're going to list our price at. And again, brag a little bit. One of the things that I told her that I think really helped her coach her sellers into taking a contingent offer. Not only were we 100% ready to go, we could flip the button and go active in a day. I told them that I said, I do market reports for my client every Tuesday. So every Tuesday I will go through showing time, and I will find out how many showings we got out of our price point and against our competition in the neighborhood. And we'll adjust our listing price based on that. And every Tuesday I do an off-market report for my client to find out which competitive homes in that neighborhood are either now active contingent on an inspection or pending. And by telling her that that's how I run my business when I have clients, she was able to take that information to the sellers and present this contingent offer with a lot of confidence, knowing that she was going to be working with an agent that was going to be pricing a house right to start with, and if not, using real analytics to get it there. And so they did accept that offer. We went on the market and we were off in 8 days or something like that. So,
and in a slower market like we're having right now, those reports are so important to get back to the sellers. Because if you list a house at $499 and you only get a couple of showings, the inclination is, well, we missed our price, so let's lower it down. But using those reports that Nathan was just talking about in showing time, you can take a look at other houses in that price range in that area. How many showings are they getting? And if you're meeting that market, if the average is 2 a week and you're getting your 2 or 3 a week, don't reduce your price,
right?
Because you're just following the market. But getting sellers to understand that, the data, like I've said many times, make data your friend.
Absolutely.
In negotiations or working with buyers, working with sellers, the more you know, the more you understand all the reports available to us, what the market trends are doing, days on market, dollars per square foot. The more you know, the stronger you're going to be as an agent.
Well, and again, I go to the very beginning of what we talked about in mindset, and it's that when I meet, especially if I don't know people and I'm in their kitchen trying to earn their business from a buyer or seller perspective, I start out every single time I say, what's most important to you? And then just start with that conversation. And I let them know I do this for a living. I do this all of the time. I can do this however you want to do this. If you want to hold out and get every last nickel for your house, great. If you are in a position where you just need to get rid of a house, even better. But to your point, I had sellers last year who I was doing those market reports for, and I had gone into there and said, I think your house is worth about, I think I had put in there like 470 to 510 and a range. And they said, great, list it for 6. And we did. And after about a month of seeing my off-market reports and showing reports, they said, we're good. We don't need to see these anymore. They just knew. They knew they were overpriced,
right.
But that's what they wanted for their house anyways. So again, I can do this however people want me to do this. We don't have to do it my way. And when they said, no, we're good, we don't need those anymore, I kind of said, all right.
I think you just got a question in there, Nathan.
Could you speak a little bit about how to counsel your sellers when you're negotiating the punch list after an inspection? Yes, I think the question, if you haven't seen it, is could you speak about how you counsel sellers when you're negotiating a punch list after an inspection? It depends on the sellers. If the sellers are handy, then sometimes a lot of that stuff goes away. If they're connected to handy people, sometimes these things are, you're able to make them go away. It depends on the house. Like if it's a really nice house and you like your sellers feel like people are just nickel and diming this thing, then it depends on how the sellers feel about it. One thing I'll say is that when issues come up, it is almost always a bigger issue to the buyers than it is to the sellers. Obviously, the sellers have been either living with that issue, don't care about that issue, or maybe just found out about it and are willing to work with the buyers on it. But usually you have to do something to make that buyer feel good again. So I think a lot of it, when I'm coaching sellers on it, what we usually like to do is find out what we can do on that punch list. If there's easy items for them to repair, if they have family members that are handy, and try to give that buyer something so that they feel good about it, about moving forward with the house. Obviously, if it's a health and safety item, usually I'm coaching my sellers to say, hey, this is probably something you need to address somehow.
Yeah, because it's still there. Even if that offer goes away, you still have that condition.
And now we have to disclose it going forward. I mean, the easy ones are like a high radon level. That's one that usually your sellers need to roll over and pay for mitigation system, because that is something that is established as a safety item, health and safety item.
Right. For me, if I can, I will get a price reduction versus doing the work. The issue with doing the work is that if you don't do it to the buyer's expectations, it just is there. It's always there. If you can get a price reduction, then it's done, it's over, and you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I agree with that, especially on some of the bigger ticket items. I mean, if it's a sewer problem, that one can be pretty scary. So that's one, I had that one recently, and we got two different bids and basically used a middle ground number between the two bids.
Yeah.
I personally, coming from a handy background, I think that a lot of stuff is pretty easy to just do. So from a seller's perspective, I guess if they have the means to get punch list type items done, I actually like it when they can actually get a relative involved or fix things themselves or save the money. And again, it's hard to know without knowing what the things are. I guess for me, usually if it's bigger ticket items, I go concessions.
Right.
If it's little things, I like to see that they can just get some stuff done quickly.
Yeah, I've just had some experiences where, the buyer just, nope, that's not good enough. Nope, that's not good enough. Nope, that's not good enough.
Yep.
And it can happen, so.
And it can also add to the logistics of your transaction with lien waivers, and your title companies are going to need to see certain things, and that
length of time.
Yeah, it can be messy. Absolutely. So I guess it really comes down to who are the buyers and who are the sellers, and how big of a deal do they think these things really are. I've seen big request lists, and I've seen sellers go through them and say, this stuff is easy, I'll do all of this stuff.
Right.
And I've seen things that don't seem like much of a big deal, and I've seen sellers say, no, I'm not doing this. Absolutely not.
Yeah. Well, if I'm working with a buyer, I will generally throw in at least 2, maybe 3 things that I'm willing to walk away from, so that you're giving that concession up. You never wanted it in the first place, but yet it makes the seller feel good because they said, well, these 3 things we're not going to do, and you go, okay, but then you get the things that you do want.
Yeah.
So it's just some throwaway stuff.
Yep. Yeah, and I think usually you kind of have an idea from your sellers because they know their house most of the time.
Yeah.
We got a Rick question. What is the best way to handle disclosing the next best offer in an escalation clause situation? Usually what I would do is I'd remove,
Redact the offer for personal.
yeah, take off the names of it
Yep.
and then just forward it. If you really do, if you have to provide it as a part of the offering agent's escalation clause,
We always do. We always ask
yeah,
that.
then you have to forward them the purchase agreement.
Or at least the first page of it.
Well, you need the closing cost parts too, because
Oh,
usually
yeah,
it's a
yeah,
net,
yeah.
so. And you can do that with your seller's permission.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
And if they've signed that offer, then that means that they're giving you permission to show the other ones.
Yep.
So. What was an offer is presented to the seller?
Once it's presented, it's no longer confidential.
I guess.
And that's on your screen. I'm not reading.
Yeah,
Online.
that's what it says. Actually, once the offer is presented to the seller, it is no longer confidential. So redacting doesn't have to happen. That's why you can shop. I guess what I was saying is that I usually remove the buyer's names is all I block out of there.
Right.
Just in case, I guess. I don't know.
That's just, it's a crazy world out there. You don't want to, confidential of information.
Yeah.
You don't want to open any doors. So I do that too.
Okay. Yeah. That's good to know.
So any more questions on that?
No.
You're doing good. Well, should we talk about turning some objections into opportunities?
Yes.
Yeah, so as we all know, there's all sorts of objections. If it's you're working with a seller, he doesn't like your commission structure, you're negotiating an offer, there's objections on that. Buyer doesn't want to pay more than this much, so there are objections. And I know early in my career I would try to deal with them head on. Let's just talk it out, which may not be the best way to do it. I did maybe offend a few people early in my career. But what I'm taking a position now on objections is seek to understand, what is that objection? Where's it coming from? You already know what it is. I want to find out why it is. And so you need to start asking the questions of, why do you feel this way? What are you concerned about? How will this affect you? And just dig as deep as you can into all the objections to find out what the real objection is. Because many times it's here, but there's a lot more to it. So it's, rephrase the objection, listen actively, just listen for points. Some tells people will always, the more you get them talking, the more you find out. And then once you find out, then it's pretty easy to overcome that objection. Because, you're just like Nathan just said, you're trying to resolve a problem. That's an issue for your client or for the other party. Resolve it the best you can. But the biggest thing I can say about with objections is, one, don't use scripts. You get online and here's 7 steps to overcome objections. Scripts, in my mind, don't work because it's scripted and every situation is unique upon itself. So I don't like scripts for pretty much anything. I'd like to have all my knowledge. I'd like to be able to educate either that party or my clients to what the real issues could be and help resolve it that way. But the biggest thing, and Nathan taught me this, is once you get them to a point where if we overcome this objection, will you move forward? Because then you're closing on it, because if there's other objections, then they come out at that time. But it's just, if this, then that, and I really like that, because then you can effectively move forward because you've overcome the objection and you've got the buy-in from either the other side or from your client.
That's exactly it. And because what you're really doing there is you're narrowing the thing down to one. If we take care of this one thing, would you purchase the house? Would you sell your house? If we can take care of whatever that thing might be, because otherwise they're going to say, well, and then there's this other thing we want to talk about. Well, we didn't talk about that. And now we know it. Now as agents, we are more educated to how we're going to work through this transaction. That comes back again from that big builder national sales training stuff. They had what I hated was they had a scripted way to handle objections. You have to go through these 4 or 5 points. I don't even remember what it was to properly handle an objection. The first one was always rephrase it, because sometimes if someone says, God, I'd buy this house, but then I got to look at the person's ugly boat parked next door. And if you rephrase it in a way to say, you would actually not live in a house here because of someone's boat next door, which might be in the lake most of the time anyways, or could we maybe build a fence or whatever. Rephrasing that a lot of times makes the person who has the objection think, boy, that's really not that big of a deal.
Right.
Another one that they always taught us was reduce it to the ridiculous, which was someone say, I would never pay that much for this house. And you'd say, do you know that for the price of going to Caribou Coffee every morning, you can have not only this house, but probably, more. And you take whatever that objection they think is such a big thing, because this house is so many hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you break it down into this is
small increments.
Right. And then they're like, well, yeah, I could probably forego some of that stuff. But always closing on it every time gets them saying many yeses, many yeses, many yeses, and they all lead then to the final yes, which is going to be buying the house.
Important too, when they first raise that objection, give validity to it. Just say, I understand. This is a valid reason. I sympathize with this. Because if you just shut them down right away and say that's stupid, which is kind of what my way was.
Yeah.
You have to add validity to it, empathize with them, and get them in a better headspace.
Yeah. And let's say you're representing sellers and you're negotiating repairs, like the other thing, or someone comes in Kevin style and says, hey, we found a whole bunch of stuff wrong with the house. We want this much off of the price. And your sellers are like, absolutely not. We're not doing that. And you could pretty quickly, like this time of year, say, okay, so what you're telling me is, even though we've had one showing in our last 3 weeks, this is the first offer that we've gotten. We are going to go ahead and not sell this house because you don't want to give away $2,500 after an inspection report. Is that what I'm hearing? When we just talked about a $10,000 price reduction to get more showings.
Yeah.
It's rephrasing those things. It's coming around. It's valid. It's their concerns. And in a situation like that, sometimes what you hear is, well, I was talking to my neighbors and they didn't have to do any of this stuff when they sold their house. It's like, well, yeah.
But this isn't the neighbor's house.
That situation. What we have to, we have to look right now and decide, is this the final number that's going to make you move or not? Because if it's not, we'll go back, and it's not a big deal. Always work to what they want, but in objection handling it's touchy, because you can't offend them. To your point, they're real feelings that they have about these things, and you just have to kind of get to the bottom of why they're having those feelings, is what I've always thought.
Yeah, you got the what.
Yeah.
Now let's find out the why.
Yeah. And just find out, everybody's different.
So I know we've only got 8 minutes left, and we haven't even started talking about the actual negotiations yet. So maybe we just kind of briefly go through the bullet points on those. if that would be okay. And the thing about negotiations is again, there's no secret sauce to it. You know, you can't script it out. Each one is unique. There's again, some of these online guys will try to teach you to ask questions in a certain order or a certain way, and you back people into a corner, so they have to say yes. Well, that's going to build resentment. They don't mean that yes. So we always prefer just going for the win-win. Yeah, you know, we go for the win-win on negotiating. But here's just some real quick points. You know, do your homework. And again, we've talked about, you know, knowing the market, knowing your business, knowing what the seller is. I know Nathan, whenever he's doing a deal with another agent, he'll investigate that agent. He'll check him out.
That's Leanne. I don't do that.
Oh, Leanne does that.
Leanne does that. I give them the benefit of the doubt. Usually.
Yeah, usually. But again, you know, do your homework before you go into it. Know what's going on. You know, but just be a good agent. And like Nathan, we said before, you know, build rapport. My wife Linda, my partner, she is incredible at building rapport over the phone. You know, she'll have people laughing and giving information and talking about their kids and their dogs within a very short period of time. She's just amazing on building rapport, and it helps the transaction go. You know, playing nice in the sandbox goes a long way. And again, seeking to understand. You know, in your negotiation, you know what the what is. Let's find out the why. Try to find some creative solutions. And sometimes, you know, you're gonna hit a wall. You're gonna hit a point of it appears that this is the transaction is going to be dead. Back away. And like Nathan said, people don't like silence. So if you back away, give them some time to really think about it. I know when we were going to buy our house out in Rolling Acres in Excelsior, it was a sad little house, but it was on 2 acres and a lake, and we just couldn't come to terms on it. So we backed away. 6 weeks later, we went back again and renegotiated, and we both walked away feeling pretty good about it. We got a better price, and they got to move their house because it was getting late in the year. So, you know, being able to be patient and persistent goes a long way. Actively listen, ask the questions, but listen for triggers. You know, there's always, if you're actively listening, every statement, you should have another question. Every question, every answer leads to another question. So the more you can, more questions you can ask, the better off you're going to be. We talked a little bit about managing your emotions, not getting involved in it. Think win-win. But has anyone ever had the situation where the offer comes in and says, this offer expires at 12:01 tonight? Now they put that artificial deadline on there. I always laugh. I just go, if you want it today, you're going to want it tomorrow. But sometimes that tactic does work. And Nathan's got a great story with his national sales manager.
Oh, it was in our negotiation training, and it just kind of talks about false deadlines. We had this, I'll try to keep it short. We had this exercise where we were selling a boat, like a yacht. We were partnered up. The seller had a card that told your backstory on why you had to sell it. The buyer had a card that told the story about why the buyer wanted to buy it. And the goal was to get a transaction done, to make a deal happen. And they gave us 5 minutes and we worked through it, and then they went on the whiteboard. I got paired up with the division president on it, and I was the seller on the boat. And I read the card, and what it said is it was 10:30. I had an appointment at noon with the bank because my boat was getting repossessed. I hadn't been making payments on it. So when it opened up, I just started out and I said, I just have to ask, are you on any type of time constraint? And he said, no. Why? And I said, I have another meeting about selling this boat in an hour. And I didn't tell him that the meeting was with the bank to give him the keys to the boat, technically selling it. or I had said the transaction or something like that. And he said, oh, okay. So we went back and forth. At the end of the exercise, everybody, writing on the whiteboard who sold, who made a sale, who didn't make a sale, the people that did make a sale, what was the price point. They intentionally had an overlap where my bottom line to get out and not lose my boat was a certain dollar amount, and it barely overlapped with what the buyer's highest price was going to be. So at the end of it, out of, I don't know what it was, 15 groups, 4 of us had made sales, and I sold the boat for higher than anybody else in the room. And the division president bought it for more than anybody else in the room, which he didn't enjoy too much. But at the end of the day, a lot of it is just, artificial deadlines can work, and they can be complete BS. So you got to ask questions about those.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite stories.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
That was
that's
fun.
a good one. So I think that's all we have for today. Really appreciate the opportunity to share with you, and look forward to more of these. I really like the 21, for all of us getting together, learning together. This is a great format because it's a little more interactive, and this is some of my favorite stuff to do, is working with the agents. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you so much for presenting to us today. We really appreciated it. And you guys were phenomenal, knocked it out of the park. Great information. We really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Bye.